Tonight, somewhere in the world, a family will stand around a casket. They will wear black. They will place flowers on top of the wood. They will lower it into the ground and walk away in silence. You have probably done this yourself. You have probably thought it was simply what people do. But the real answer is far stranger. Because this ritual, the flowers, the silence, the careful placement of a body into earth, is not new. It is not even close to new. It is at least 50,000 years old. And the people who first did it were not fully human at all. Your ancestors buried the dead before they had cities, before they had writing, before they had anything you would recognize as civilization. Somewhere in the mountains of what is now northern Iraq, a group of Neanderthals dug a hole in a cave. They laid a body inside it, and then something happened that changed how scientists think about the ancient mind forever. In the 1960s, archaeologist Ralph Solecki was excavating a site called Shanidar Cave. He found the remains of several Neanderthals, one of them curled in a shallow grave. Around the skeleton, his team detected clusters of ancient pollen. Solecki proposed something radical for the time. He suggested the pollen came from flowers deliberately placed on the body. Cornflowers, yarrow, grape hyacinth. The idea spread fast. Newspapers called it the flower burial. Neanderthals, long imagined as brutish and empty-eyed, were suddenly capable of grief, suddenly capable of beauty. A creature society had dismissed as a dumb evolutionary dead end had apparently mourned its dead with flowers picked from a mountainside. Was it true? For decades, most people assumed it was. Then in 2013, archaeologist Chris Hunt led a re-examination of the site. His team proposed a different explanation. Burrowing bees, common in that region, are known to drag flower pollen deep underground while building their nests. The pollen clusters found near the Shanidar skeleton lined up almost perfectly with the pattern those insects leave behind. So maybe there were no flowers at all. Maybe it was bees, not grief, doing the work. Here is the strange part. Even if the flowers were never real, the burial still was. Someone dug that hole. Someone placed that body inside it, curled in a specific position, and covered it with earth instead of leaving it exposed to scavengers. That decision alone tells you something. A being with no language as we know it, no art, no permanent settlements, still looked at a dead companion and decided the body deserved to be treated differently than a fallen tree or a dead animal. Why would evolution build a mind that cares what happens to a corpse? A body provides no more food, no more warmth, no more protection. In pure survival terms, burying it costs energy for nothing. And yet, across the archaeological record, again and again, ancient humans and their relatives paid that cost anyway. Archaeologist Paul Pettit has spent much of his career studying exactly this question. In his research on the origins of human burial, Pettit argues that treating the dead differently likely began not as ritual, but as something closer to hygiene and habit. A group returns to the same cave for shelter. A member of the group dies inside it. Over time, the living start moving the body to the same corner, then covering it, first, perhaps just to reduce smell, later, slowly layering in meaning. That is the pattern behind almost every human ritual. It starts as something practical. Then your mind, always searching for significance, turns the practical into the sacred. But burial is not the oldest sign that something inside the human lineage cared about death. In 2013, cavers exploring a system in South Africa called Rising Star discovered a narrow, almost impossibly tight passage leading down into a chamber. Inside it, paleoanthropologist Lee Berger and his team found the remains of a previously unknown species. They named it Homo naledi, small-brained, roughly half the brain size of a modern human. A creature that by most old assumptions should have been incapable of anything resembling ritual. Yet the bodies were deep inside a cave system that would have required climbing through total darkness, through gaps barely wide enough for a human shoulder, to reach a chamber with no other entrance. There was no reasonable way the bodies simply fell there or were dragged in by predators. Berger's team proposed something almost unthinkable for a brain that small. Homo naledi may have deliberately carried its dead into the deepest, most difficult part of the cave again and again, over generations. If that is true, then the drive to do something with the dead, to treat a corpse as more than debris, may be far older and far more widespread across the human family tree than anyone expected. It may not require a large brain at all. It may not even require language. Think about what that means for you. Every funeral you have ever attended, every grave you have stood beside, every impulse you have felt to visit a headstone or keep an old photograph of someone gone is not a modern invention. It is not something culture built from nothing. It is an ancient, deeply wired response, older than cities, older than farming, quite possibly older than modern humans themselves. Your brain still runs code written by creatures who barely resembled you. There is a reason grief feels less like a choice and more like weather moving through you. It is because it was never designed as a choice. It emerged, slowly, in creatures trying to make sense of loss with minds only just beginning to understand that the world would go on without someone in it. The flowers at Shanidar may have been bees. The bodies at Rising Star are still debated. Scientists argue constantly about what counts as intentional and what counts as coincidence, because the evidence from tens of thousands of years ago rarely arrives with a clear answer attached. But the pattern across every site, every skeleton, every strange cave chamber, points in the same direction. Something in the human lineage, long before it looked or thought like you, could not simply walk away from its dead. So the next time you stand at a funeral, wearing black, holding flowers, saying nothing, remember what you are actually doing. You are not performing a modern custom invented for convenience or tradition. You are running a program written in the deep past by beings who buried their dead in caves. They could barely fit inside, by minds a fraction the size of yours, by creatures who somehow still understood that some things should not simply be left behind. Tonight, somewhere in the world, a family will stand around a casket, and without knowing it, they will be doing exactly what was done in that cave, in Iraq, in that chamber in South Africa, tens of thousands of years before any of them were born.